All right, so are you ready for this one?
Oh, I think so. Bring it on.
Buckle up then, because this deep dive, it's going to be a wild ride.
I'm intrigued already.
Yeah, so someone sent us this self-published book, the kind you find in the depths of the internet, right?
I know the type.
It's called The Rules of David X.
Catchy.
And it was even translated into Portuguese, so who knows what the original was like.
Adds a layer of mystery, doesn't it?
Totally. And let me tell you, this David X, he is a character,
No.
a real piece of work. Today, we're going to try to unpack his, shall we say, unique views on attracting women.
From what I've skimmed so far, unique is putting it mildly.
Right. He's got this whole system, but it's based entirely on his own experiences.
That seems to be a recurring theme, yeah. Like he's constantly referencing his past conquests.
Exactly. He even talks about, like, wanting to be with women of all races.
It's almost like he's trying to collect experiences like trophies.
That's a good way to put it. He even mentions an Eskimo woman.
Wow, okay, so very specific.
And there's this anecdote about going back to the bar after being intimate with a woman and using that to attract another.
Interesting. Sounds like he believes in that social proof idea.
Yeah, like if other women see you're successful, you'll be even more successful.
Makes sense, in a way, but kind of manipulative, don't you think?
Totally. But manipulation seems to be a key part of his strategy.
That's a bit concerning.
He even compares himself to a pimp at one point, saying he understands women better than anyone else.
Wow, that's a bold claim.
Right. But here's the thing. Despite the pimp comparison, he's not looking for a traditional relationship.
So what is he after then?
Purely attraction and intimacy.
Sounds like a recipe for trouble.
Oh, it gets better or maybe worse, depending on how you look at it.
Okay, you've got my attention.
Forget pickup lines. David X believes in cutting right to the chase. He says men should be direct, honest about their attraction, even steering the conversation towards intimacy right away.
So, like, no beating around the bush.
None whatsoever. He's all about efficiency.
That's a very assertive, almost aggressive approach.
Oh, absolutely. He even suggests using the woman's responses as fuel, creating that push and pull dynamic.
Trying to keep them on their toes, I guess.
Exactly. And he's got this very specific view of the bar and club scene.
Which is?
He believes women go there to meet men, so why bother with pretense? Just be upfront about it.
So it's all about cutting through the noise and getting straight to the point.
Exactly. But he also acknowledges the importance of charm and attention.
So it's not just about being blunt.
Right, you have to be engaging too.
Makes sense. You can't just be a robot.
Totally. But then he has some advice for navigating those environments, especially when it comes to groups of women.
Okay, this should be good.
He says, focus on the least likable woman in the group.
Really?
Yep. And treat the more desirable ones, well, let's just say less favorably.
Wow, okay, that's definitely playing with expectations.
Right. It's all about creating intrigue, being unpredictable.
I'm not sure I'd recommend that approach, but it's definitely interesting.
Oh, and it gets even weirder.
Does it?
He has these theories about women's behaviors.
Like what?
Well, he thinks certain habits, like smoking or playing with a straw,
Oh, here we go.
he believes they reveal deeper personality traits.
Like some kind of secret code.
Exactly. He's all about finding patterns, creating these, like, scientific rules of attraction.
It's fascinating how he tries to systematize everything.
Right. And this focus on observation, it extends to the environment, too.
In what way?
Well, he considers location to be crucial.
I can see that.
He prefers seated venues, so you can move to a quieter spot if needed.
Creating a more intimate atmosphere, I suppose.
Exactly. It's all about controlling the setting.
Interesting.
And his assertiveness, it also comes out in his views on women's clothing.
Oh boy, this should be interesting.
He actually encourages men to comment on revealing outfits.
As long as it's done tastefully, I'm sure he'd add.
He would.
But still, that's pretty bold, even risky.
He doesn't shy away from pushing boundaries, that's for sure.
It's like he sees every interaction as an opportunity to create a connection.
And that's exactly how he describes it. He even tells a story about meeting a woman at a bar who recognized him from school.
Did they reminisce about old times?
Nope. He invited her and her friend back to his apartment.
Just like that?
Just like that. And they actually showed up.
Wow. That's either incredibly smooth or incredibly lucky.
Or maybe a bit of both.
Yeah.
He's definitely operating on a different level of boldness.
No doubt about that.
And that's where we start getting into some even more unconventional territory.
I'm almost afraid to ask, but go on.
His concepts of confidence, control, and even manipulation in relationships.
That sounds a bit intense.
Oh, it is. He uses this analogy of buying a car.
Okay.
He says choosing a partner should be just as intentional as buying a vehicle.
So have a checklist. Know what you want.
Exactly. Be proactive, have a clear vision.
Interesting analogy.
He also believes that men are often too timid.
Too nice.
Yeah. And he sees that as a major disadvantage in attracting women.
So he's advocating for a more, I don't know, alpha male approach.
In a way, yes. He blames societal expectations for this timidity.
Like how men are taught to be nice.
Exactly. He thinks being too accommodating can actually backfire.
So be a jerk.
No, not exactly, but he definitely emphasizes establishing control.
That sounds a bit domineering.
He even compares women to children who test boundaries.
Okay, that's a little out there.
I know, right? But it reflects his belief in setting firm limits.
And not giving in to manipulation.
Precisely. He's all about that unwavering resolve.
I'm sensing a theme here.
Oh, there's definitely a theme. And it gets even more extreme with his views on walking away.
Walking away from what?
From anything. A woman's demands, her indecision.
He doesn't tolerate any of that.
Nope. Sees it as a weakness.
So always be in control, never compromise.
That's the David X philosophy.
Sounds exhausting, to be honest.
It probably is. And that brings us to his 2 central rules for relationships.
I'm all ears.
Rule number 1, not caring what the woman thinks.
All right, that's pretty harsh.
And rule number 2, prioritizing oneself.
So it's all about him.
It seems that way. His whole philosophy revolves around self-interest.
That doesn't sound like a recipe for a healthy relationship.
He'd probably disagree. He's all about direct communication, even if it comes across as insensitive.
So no sugarcoating.
None whatsoever. Express your needs, desires, no holding back.
I can see how that could lead to some conflict.
Oh, absolutely. He even shares this anecdote about a woman who tried to limit their intimacy to 12 times a year.
12 times a year.
Yeah. But he completely ignored her restriction.
Wow, that's something.
Right. He doesn't believe in playing by anyone else's rules.
It's all about what he wants.
Exactly. And he argues that this radical honesty, it's ultimately appreciated by women.
Even if it's initially off-putting.
That's his claim. He sees it as a sign of strength, authenticity.
I'm not so sure about that.
It's definitely a unique perspective.
Unique is one way to put it.
But even with all this focus on his own needs, he does acknowledge the importance of romance. He does. He has these specific tactics, like sending a single rose with a delayed card.
To create a sense of mystery.
Exactly. He's still playing games, even within a relationship.
It's like he can't help himself.
And he tells the story about 2 mothers discussing their married children.
To illustrate what?
His point about relationship dynamics. He believes men should set clear boundaries.
And not be afraid to walk away if their needs aren't met.
Exactly. Don't compromise on your core values, even in a long-term partnership.
I see where he's coming from, but it still sounds a bit extreme.
He's nothing if not extreme, and he's very open about his own preferences.
Like what?
He even admits to directly asking women if they can cook.
Really?
Yep, because that's a non-negotiable for him.
No time for beating around the bush.
Efficiency above all else.
Makes sense, given his personality.
Right. He also believes that women are primarily attracted to men with certain qualities.
Such as?
A sense of humor, the ability to provide, and financial stability.
So the classic provider type.
Exactly. And he has this story about interacting with his friends' secretaries.
Oh, no.
Pushing boundaries, making suggestive comments.
Despite being married.
Apparently. But it highlights his belief in being direct, pursuing his desires.
He's definitely consistent in his approach.
And his observations about women often being drawn to wealthy men.
Millionaires, rock stars, you know the type.
Exactly. He reinforces this belief that financial security is key.
It's a pretty cynical view of relationships.
It is. But he encourages men to pay attention to women's signals.
But also to ask directly if they're unsure.
Always that emphasis on clear communication.
Even in awkward situations.
Especially in awkward situations. And he even tells the story about driving a topless woman.
Okay, this should be good.
But then choosing her friend because she was better in bed.
Wow. That's a choice.
Right. It just underscores his focus on personal satisfaction above all else.
No kidding. He's very unapologetic about it.
Definitely a lot to unpack here.
So much to think about with this David X character.
It's like he's from another planet, you know?
Totally. But it's that honesty, even if it's like brutally honest, that he seems to think sets him apart.
He calls it tough love.
Tough love, right?
Yeah, like he thinks it's more effective than, sugarcoating things.
No games.
No games whatsoever. Just pure, unfiltered truth.
I wonder if it's really about honesty or just about weeding out anyone who doesn't agree with him.
That's a good point. It's like a test, right? If a woman can't handle his directness.
She's out.
Exactly. He's not wasting time on anyone who doesn't fit into his worldview.
So it's about finding someone who not only tolerates his approach, but actually appreciates it.
Yeah. Someone who sees it as a strength, not a weakness.
Talk about having a specific type.
And it definitely challenges that whole nice guy stereotype.
He actually thinks being too nice can hurt your chances.
Oh, he's very clear about that. He thinks women are attracted to confidence, assertiveness.
Even if it's a little intimidating.
Exactly. And that brings us back to his belief that women give off signals.
They're always dropping hints.
Right. He tells the story about a friend who missed a clear opportunity because he was too hesitant.
So David X is all about seizing the moment.
Oh, yeah. No hesitation, just action.
And if you're not sure, just ask directly, right?
That's his motto. Don't overthink it. Just go for it.
Even if it could be awkward.
Especially if it could be awkward. He even suggests explicitly stating your intention.
Like, I want to sleep with you.
Pretty much. He thinks that kind of directness cuts through all the BS.
I can see how it would, but it takes a lot of guts.
David X would say it's not about guts, it's about confidence.
Believing in yourself and your desires.
Exactly. And he thinks that confidence is ultimately more attractive than any pickup line.
So it's not about tricks or techniques.
Nope. It's about being genuine, even if it's a little rough around the edges.
Okay, so we've talked about his rules, his strategies, but what about the more colorful parts of the book?
You mean the stuff that makes you question his sanity?
Well, let's just say the seduce chapter was a wild ride.
That's putting it mildly. He has some seduction techniques that are, well, pretty out there.
Like what? Give us an example.
Okay, are you ready for this? He suggests asking women what they named their breasts.
You're kidding, Rob.
I'm not. And when they ask him the same question about his,
I think I can guess where this is going.
he says he calls it better.
Oh my God.
I know, right? It's clearly meant to shock, to provoke a reaction.
But there's got to be more to it than just being outrageous.
I think it's about shifting the power dynamic.
So the woman is the one who has to make the first move, so to speak.
Exactly. He's always trying to flip the script on traditional dating rituals.
And what about his advice on eye contact?
Oh, that's a whole other chapter. It's not about those shy glances or lingering looks.
What is it about them?
He says look directly at what you find attractive.
So like staring at someone's chest?
If that's what you find attractive, yes. He's all about being unapologetically direct with your gaze.
I can see how that could be interpreted as, well, creep.
It definitely depends on the context and how it's done.
And he even compares men and women to different species, like predator and prey.
Yeah, that's one of his more controversial analogies.
It definitely paints a picture of his mindset
He's all about tapping into those primal instincts.
and not letting societal norms hold you back.
Exactly. He also has some interesting thoughts on spending money.
Oh.
He says don't overspend on a woman until you're in a committed relationship.
So no fancy dinners or expensive gifts.
Nope. He even suggests taking women to cheap burger joints.
That's a test in itself, right?
It is.
Yeah.
He wants to see how a woman reacts to his, let's say, unconventional behavior.
If she's complaining about the cheap date, she's not the one.
Exactly. He's looking for someone who's not materialistic, who appreciates him for who he is.
Interesting filtering system.
And he talks about two types of respect,
Which are.
fear and admiration,
So he thinks women are attracted to men who command respect.
through their confidence and assertiveness.
Even if it borders on, like, being a jerk.
He wouldn't call it being a jerk. He'd say it's about being a strong, dominant presence.
Definitely a different way of looking at it.
But for all his bravado, he does have moments of vulnerability.
Really.
He mentions seeing a psychiatrist for 2 years
Why?
because he couldn't understand why women wanted to marry him.
That's fascinating. It shows he's not just this robot,
Exactly. There's more to him than meets the eye.
He's a complex character, that's for sure.
And he also talks about how a past girlfriend taught him the importance of a clean slate.
A clean slate.
Yeah, starting relationships without baggage from the past.
So he's capable of learning and growing.
He is. He realized he was bringing negativity from his previous marriage into his new relationships.
That takes self-awareness.
It does. And it shows that even David X can change and evolve.
So maybe there's hope for him yet.
Maybe. But one thing's for sure. He's convinced his philosophy is the key to success.
Unlike all those other dating gurus out there.
He's very critical of them, actually.
Like what way?
He thinks they're designed to keep clients coming back for more.
So they're more interested in profit than in actually helping people.
That's his argument. He says they prey on people's insecurities.
And keep them hooked on the promise of finding love.
Exactly. But he insists everything you need to know is in his book.
No need for expensive courses or workshops,
Except maybe for his personal coaching sessions.
which he calls...
Harem management.
Wait, did he really say harem management?
He did. It's as if he's created his own little empire of unconventional wisdom.
It's certainly a memorable phrase.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the mind of David X., what stands out to you as the most, let's say, memorable aspect of his philosophy?
I think it's his complete disregard for conventional wisdom.
He's like a rebel in the world of dating advice.
Exactly. He's created his own reality, his own set of rules.
And the question is, can those rules be applied to anyone else? Or is he just a unique case?
Something to ponder, for sure.
It's definitely a lot to take in, you know? I mean, where do you even begin to process all of that?
Right. It's overwhelming.
But one thing that I found really interesting, even with all the controversial stuff,
Oh, yeah.
it's his view on technology, especially in dating.
He's not a fan, is he?
Not at all. He's like totally against texting, Facebook, all of that.
Back to basics.
Exactly. He thinks all that digital stuff, it distracts from real connection.
So more face-to-face, less screen time.
Exactly. It's like he wants to go back to a simpler time, you know?
And in a way, it makes sense, given his whole philosophy.
It does. It's all about directness, authenticity.
All hiding behind your phone.
Nope. You have to be present, engage with the other person.
It's refreshing, actually.
It is. It's like taking off all those layers and just being real.
Stripping it down to the core.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that might be the most valuable takeaway from all of this, even if you don't agree with everything he says.
What, being anti-technology?
No, not necessarily that, but that emphasis on direct communication, being clear about what you want.
Taking control.
Exactly. Not being afraid to go after what you desire.
Yeah. So in a way, he's empowering, even if his methods are questionable.
He is. He's like, don't wait for things to happen, make them happen.
Whether you like him or not, you have to admire his confidence.
Totally. He's living life on his own terms, and he's not apologizing for it.
And that's maybe something we can all learn from, you know?
To be more authentic, more true to ourselves.
Exactly. Even if we don't go to the extremes that David X does.
Right. But it's about finding that balance, you know?
Between being true to yourself and being respectful of others.
Exactly. It's a delicate dance.
It is. And ultimately, there's no right or wrong answer.
Nope. We all have to find our own way.
That's the beauty of it. Everyone's journey is unique.
It is. And, you know, exploring these unconventional perspectives, it helps us question our own beliefs.
It makes us think outside the box.
Exactly. And maybe even discover something new about ourselves.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of David X, what's your final takeaway?
Well, I think it's that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to love and relationships.
Everyone has their own paths.
Exactly. And what works for one person might not work for another.
But it's important to keep an open mind, you know?
Totally. And be willing to learn from different perspectives, even those that challenge our own.
Absolutely. You never know where you might find inspiration.
Well said. So to all our listeners out there, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those deep dives coming.
And remember, there's no right or wrong answer when it comes to love and attraction. Just be true to yourself, and the rest will follow.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Until next time, folks.